What's up, y'all? I'm Uncle Freedom, coming to you on a glorious and well-deserved day off. First things first, y'all. Like, subscribe, share. That, after all, is how we defeat the algorithm and push more 2A content out to the masses. I would also tell you to take a moment and check out another YouTube channel who produces something who brings your life joy and entertainment. One of those right now for me is American Fighting Revolver. One of those guys at American Fighting Revolver I mentioned in the last video, and that is Daryl Bulkey. He came, he did a whole bunch of stuff, and now he's like a super tactical angry Santa, and it's freaking awesome. Another great one is Primary and Secondary. Matt Landfair over there has produced amazing content for probably close to a decade, if my brain serves me right. Great stuff over there, awesome. If you're a podcast guy, they also do amazing podcast. Huge shout out goes to the biggest supporter of what I do right now, and that is outlastsupply.com. They curated a store that contains products if you found yourself in a prepared mindset that you may need, like water filters, medical gear, food, shelf-stable food. You would also find things in the personal defense market, which you may find beneficial as a gun person. Yeah, I don't sell anything, YouTube. I simply make educational content for the masses and try to produce stuff that is worth your time and watching. I would say also thank you to Griffin Armament, right? Like, this super dope shirt is just cool. It's like Hawaiian with a very specific vibe. If you look closely, I have things like Black Hawk helicopters and stuff in my pattern on my shirt. I also have one that is all muzzle devices, and it is a polo, and it is in fact awesome. Today we're going to talk about another step on that comprehensive concealed carry guide, and I'm going to take a moment and this might be a longer video, but this is tactical anatomy, right? I know somebody's already yelling, I don't need no anatomy, man. I just takes the gun. I don't need no nothing about anatomy. I know the sound it makes, right? Don't be dumb. We all need to have a grasp on anatomy, especially anatomy from the tactics mindset or tactical sense, right? A base level knowledge of how the human body actually functions and the anatomy that makes you, I don't know, continue to breathe, and how to place rounds to affect those anatomical structures is in fact essential information, right? And we're going to talk about that today. So before I get all talking about like the parts of the body's anatomy that we would be concerned with as defensive minded people, you need to understand at some level that there are effectively 3 stops that can take place in a gunfight, 2 of which we actually have some sort of control over, and a third that we do not. However, our judicious marksmanship is how we're going to affect the 2 of the 3. So first and foremost, the one that we are most concerned with is a full physical stop, right? So this is where the effects of our judiciously placed marksmanship have rendered a threat ineffective or continuing to be, right? Like, that is what we're going for. That is what we call a full physical stop. Second one we have, and we have control over it, is known as a mobility stop. That is when the effects of our judicious marksmanship, again, in an encounter, have rendered a threat's ability to move or to be a threat in any kind, with, i.e. broken limbs, busted pelvic bowl, destroyed ball joints, that kind of stuff. That's what we're going for there. And then third, and the one we have the least amount of control over, if any at all, is a psychological stop. This is what happens when the results of our actions, a threat gives up, stops, cries for mommy, but at any point they can just decide they're going to be a threat again, right? Like, there is nothing physically stopping them from doing that. And that is known as a psychological stop. Now, that kind of stop is something that is what happens with the whole, like, you produced a gun and they ran away, right? Like, that is a psychological stop. If you racked a shotgun, and as Daryl Bulkey so eloquently put it, the people that run away when you rack a shotgun would have run away when you said, I'm calling the cops. The guys that are actually like Apex Predator, Cape Buffalo dudes that are willing to fight you, when you racked a shotgun, you gave them a warning that it was about to get real, right? Like, you gave them a heads up. So remember, we are never attempting or trying for a psychological stop. I know it's going to piss somebody off because they're going to be like, we should not, we want to. Dude, gunfighting game is a violent place, right? And like, people are trying and attempting to take away from us that which we hold dear, and in a result, we are going to take away from them with that which they hold dear, the ability to breathe. A psychological stop and aiming for that is never going to be a tactical plan, okay? Mobility stops actually are never going to be a tactical plan, right? Because we are talking about a mobility stop, right? Like say you know, what was the famous one? Shoot them in the knee, right? You're telling me that you want your plan to be to shoot a very small, low probability target that is moving at a high rate of speed and is never in the same place twice. Taking out a mobility thing is a side effect of our marksmanship. It is not the actual destination of what we're trying to do. So if we've kind of eliminated mobility, right? And we've definitely eliminated psychological as something we are striving to do. Now we got to talk about what we can actually do, and that is a full physical stop of a threat, right? That is the game we are playing in this particular version of Roblox or Minecraft or whatever you want to call it today. We are aiming for a full physical incapacitation of a threat. That is our goal, right? If we are playing the gunfight game, the only available answer to this is that dude stops doing whatever he's doing, right? That is our goal. So there are two ways in which we can achieve a full physical stop of an attacker. Number one, and actually these are referred to as timers and switches, right? And there is effectively one switch in the body. There are a bunch of timers, okay? So we're gonna talk about these in reference to timers and switches. And we're gonna start with the switch because there's only one of these. It is very small. It moves a lot more than you realize it is moving. It is protected by extremely dense bone that is shaped in such a manner as it deflects incoming things. It's almost like we evolved that way. And it carries with it the highest probability of a miss, which increases our liability. But it also carries with it the highest reward if we're in a bad, very bad situation. The part that we are trying to hit and damage specifically when we talk about a switch is not just the head, right? Like you've always, heard headshot, you've seen the little T-box, right? Well, the T-box, especially down here as we get into the sinus cavity of the face, right? We are actually attempting to sever something known as the brainstem. And be more specific, we are trying to sever the piece of the brainstem known as the medulla oblongata. Those of you that want me so desperately to insert like a clip from The Waterboy where it says there's something wrong with his medulla oblongata, I'm not going to do that. But you can mentally see that, right? Like, just so we're clear. That is the thing we are in fact attempting to damage in some form or fashion to stop the body's natural inclination to breathe, regulate blood pressure, or be functioning at all, right? It is an off switch. If you hit that, it is not like the movies, man. If you hit it, they drop exactly where they stood. It is an instant, like somebody cut the strings off of a puppet is what it looks like. It just crumples to the ground. That is what it looks like when you achieve an actual switch hit. We are making an attempt to basically clip the strings of that specific puppet that is causing problems at that time. Now, a timer is a very different thing. A timer is a much more likely outcome for what we're doing here, because if in fact you went for a timer and you missed the actual timer, you have started, or switch, you have now started a timer. Any trauma at all that we cause during this kind of a gunfight is effectively a timer. How fast that timer is moving is a function of what it is that we damaged when we started the timer. The human body is a sealed, pressurized hydraulic system, in effect, right? Like we are a sealed ecosystem in there with a hydraulic pump that is pushing fluid out that articulates things and makes things move and keeps things moving and doing what they're supposed to do. We are a sealed hydraulic system. And every leak that we can actually impart into a sealed hydraulic system lowers the pressure eventually to the point that the system will fail. That is what we see with a full physical stop with a timer. Now, there are different kinds of leaks that we can cause. Everything from a grazing wound to the arm because that dude did X, Y, and Z and it's just kind of like seeping out hydraulic fluid, to putting a round into a femoral and causing that artery to go, right? Like those are a lot faster than the other stuff. Now, the stuff we're really aiming for in a defensive encounter is all located right about here, right? It's the upper thoracic area behind the sternal bone and all that stuff, sternal cartilage. We are aiming for the pump house. We want the actual pump that is pushing hydraulic fluid that we may have made leak with 2 or 3 other entrances, but we are now effectively, our main goal is to take out the actual pumping system for this hydraulically functioning anatomical bipedal predator thing, right? Now, the pump we are talking about specifically is the heart and aortic arch. Now, where the heart is, above the heart, there is the aortic arch. It is a massive artery. It is the main artery that leads out of the heart and pushes blood to the rest of the body. That is an incredibly high pressure system in the center of the chest for the most part. And not just the center like left or right, like front to back, right? Everything in our body that is made for us that can stop us doing what we're doing is protected pretty well by our body. Think your brachial artery, right? You can't get to your brachial really from out here where we're exposed to stuff, but you can really easily in here in the armpit. Same thing with the femoral, right? The outside of the leg, the front of the leg where we would take most abuse, it's very hard to get to where we're trying to go. But if we get to the inside of this guy, we have much easier access to that huge fight stopping measure. Same deal, right? Like your heart and aortic arch and stuff is placed behind protective measures inside of a cage that is designed to deflect as much damage as humanly possible away from that thing. Because that thing stops, we cease. Now, the way you need to look at the pump and the aortic arch, that is the absolute shortest timer you can ever start. That is as short as it gets because there is no way to put pressure on it. And it's gonna do its thing, right? But here's the thing. Even if we put a perfectly well-aimed shot directly into the pump, and that thing, it was expanding when it hit, and it destroyed the pump, there is a greater likelihood than not that you have somewhere between like 40 seconds and a minute before that threat stops being a threat. He's still gonna go. He just doesn't know he's dead yet, right? Like same thing happens when we hunt, right? If you double lung a deer and hit the heart, that deer can still run 150 yards, jump over a fence, and then die. Sometimes you hit it and they drop right where they stood, right? It just depends on the specific predator we are facing. But nobody said it was gonna be an instant thing, and and here's the other part of this that we can talk about, right? So we have that, right? Full minute, maybe longer, but that's again all dependent upon environmental factors, right? With a deer, it could just be that deer was amped up that day. Maybe they just found a doe it really liked. I don't know, but that deer ran for 100 yards, jumped over a fence and died over there. Same thing could happen with a bipedal animatronic hydraulically functioning character that intention is to do you harm. There are things that augment the reality of what we're doing physically to that thing. One of them is a altered mental state from some sort of a recreational, you can't buy that kind of stuff, right? So if you get a dude and he is super hopped up on crank or something like that, he may take a lot longer to realize he has in fact expired. Another one we see is vasoconstriction. This is mainly an external thing on limbs, right? So it is entirely possible, and it has happened in the past, that if a guy was to be shot and hit the brachial artery and that thing is going to take him out of the fight, because he's so hopped up on adrenaline when it happened, his veins and his arteries and veins constricted, limiting the blood flow and blood loss. And then as he starts to relax and the adrenaline goes away, it starts dumping like ever. But here's the problem. Every second that it takes for that to start kicking in is a second longer we have to fight him. Now keep in mind, the bad dude is no longer going home, but he can still ensure that you don't. That is just one of those anomalies of the human body. Another one, again, adrenaline. Adrenaline will keep things functional, upright, and damaging for a whole lot longer than you realize, because adrenaline is one hell of a drug. As any combat vet, cop that's done jump out boy stuff, I can tell you right now, even to this day, man, when I'm gonna hit a search warrant on a house, there's all kinds of right before I do it, because it's adrenaline, man. That is a true drug. It's a drug of choice for most guys I know that were in the army of some kind. Adrenaline is just a thing, man. And unfortunately, everybody sees adrenaline the same way, and it will keep you alive a lot longer. So that may be good for you, but it could also mean that your attacker is just in the game for longer than you expected. Now, some combo of that, like I said, will keep your threat that is already mortally wounded and effectively dead on its feet doing damage, and I can promise you if it's 60 seconds, that is an eternity if you are facing it. So even with the downfalls that can come with hitting the pump and the long time we have to have, why do we still aim at that specifically? Well, the answer to that is center mass is the largest target and it moves the least. It is a lot harder to shift your torso around, where the head, I can do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Move arms around. This is a much more static target for us to shoot at. But the stuff that we actually need to hit sits pretty deep inside of this guy, behind some armor plating that, you know, was put there when we were created. It is important to realize too that center mass may not always be center mass, right? If I'm angled, if I am turned, where you need to hit upon the body to effectively do the same damage, it changes, right? So whereas somebody would look at center mass and be like, oh, you only need to penetrate like 3 inches, right? But if I'm turned this way and you got to come through my shoulder and my meaty arm and then into here, right? And maybe through a coat and a bunch of other stuff, and then transverse the body to get to where you need to get, you need a bullet goes deeper. So the fact that that is how the body functions highlights the fact that we need ammunition that penetrates. It has got to actually get through whatever is between our muzzle and what we need to hit, and it's got to do it with enough force to do damage once it gets there. Now, that set of facts alone is the number one criteria. It highlights the number one criteria for what we would pick for a defensive ammo, and that number one criteria is penetration. Dun, 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 insert your joke, moving on. All right, our ammunition has to have enough mass, this is important, and a construction though, so that it will penetrate through whatever is between the muzzle of our firearm and the vital area we're trying to hit. This is the reason that I constantly tell people that stuff like Liberty, civil defense ammo, and RIP is absolute hot garbage, because it doesn't have enough mass. It doesn't have enough frontal area. It doesn't have enough anything. It's got a crap load of speed, and it's got like stuff that flies into things, and it comes apart really quick, and it looks really cool in jail. But in the reality that is a gunfight with something that wants to hurt you back, dude, he's ignoring that you put a hole in his heart. He doesn't care that you just blew his pec off with the world's most fantastic, like, explodey, solid copper, hyper lightweight thing, right? That is the reason that I will tell you that RIP and stuff like civil defense are never going to be a defensive option. They are hot garbage, and I don't care if it makes you mad. Somebody needs to make you mad and let you know things like that are junk, and they are just dependent upon you basically being stupid, and I'm going to tell you why. Civil defense, I've heard this is the argument. It's got like a bajillion foot-pounds of energy, and it's basically 223 speed out of a handgun. That is bullshit. I said it to you. Ballistic energy on its face is a mathematical equation that is derived from the mass of an object and velocity. Ballistic energy, foot-pounds of energy, is literally a math formula. It has some merit, but predominantly it is used as a comparative tool, right? If I look at something and it says it has 383 foot-pounds of energy, and I look at this thing and it says it's got 600 foot-pounds of energy, I can defer by the fact that one is bigger than the other, that this one has something over this one. And odds are, because it's such a high discrepancy in the same caliber, it's velocity, right? There is no free lunch in physics. You are not throwing a 124 grain projectile at 1900 feet per second out of your Glock 19, right? We achieve higher numbers in ballistic muzzle energy by speeding things up, right? If we double the weight, we double the potential energy. If we double the speed, we are quadding the additional energy we get, right? Speed is how we do that. That is one of the reasons that the 5.56 is so effective as a defensive round, is it is moving at Mach Jesus with a little bitty light projectile that tends to come apart when it hits things, but it produces things like hydrostatic shock, and it damages surrounding organs and tissues because everything coming off that round is tearing things. There is not a pistol round on the planet with enough velocity to do that out of a handgun you're going to carry in your pants. It ain't happening. So, That there, though, that high foot-pounds of energy thing is used as a selling tool by companies like Liberty Ammunition, and it is thought, back up. All right, like Liberty Ammunition, they tout their extremely high foot-pounds of energy and hyper-fast velocity. That is what sells that round, right? Which, to non-ballistic nerds, your average everyday citizen, your person getting into concealed carry, seems like a great thing, right? Oh, it's got to be more. It's got to be better, right? I'm telling you, man, the people that praise this stuff, it's like introducing meth at a trailer park, man. They eat this shit up when we start talking about superior foot-pounds of energy. I'm going to tell you why that shit doesn't really matter, though. Why is Liberty so bad? Well, Liberty is an extremely light, I think it's 50 grains. It is a solid copper hollow point, which is basically a coffee cup in a 355 diameter that is moving at a very high rate of speed. And what happens when it hits a target is the front of that round basically explodes and disintegrates, right? It is just dumping everything in all directions. Now, at first that sounds great until I tell you that all happens in about that much space. And then the argument is that the copper base goes an additional 12 inches into the thing. Right, that copper base weighs like 10 grains. You're talking about something 1/4 of the weight of a .22 long rifle round. You are talking about something less than 1/10 of the weight of a 124 grain 9mm round. There is nothing with enough mass to do anything inside of the body. It's just not how it works, man. I'm sorry that makes you mad. Somebody needs to make you mad. That is the reason crap like that is despised by people that teach ballistics, because it doesn't freaking work, and it's keying in on the fact that you're gullible and it said higher foot-pounds of energy and you jumped all over it because clearly that had to be good. It's got fancy packaging. The whole thing is nickel silver. It looks so pretty, but it is junk ammo. Fact. Anyway, moving on. What we need when we start talking about tactical anatomy and using a projectile to do the work we are trying to do is we need a balance. We need a balance of projectile design and mass. We are hunting for something that has enough mass to penetrate adequately enough with enough size to do relative damage with a bullet design itself that is tough enough that it distributes a good expansion if it's an expanding projectile, which will destroy more tissue and is starting more little bitty timers on its route through to hit that thing. That is why we choose the ammo we choose. We don't choose the ammo we choose because it looks cool. We are hunting for something that is pushed at a moderate velocity with good mass and a decent enough bullet construction so that it will penetrate into the thing with enough force to start many little bitty timers all the way through and to hit the thing that we needed to hit with enough force to do damage to it. Now, the other part of this is that design feature also has to limit our liability and significantly decrease the chances of the round actually leaving our target. That solid expansion or design of something like an Extreme Defender, right? I love that round because it is super effective. It is effective because it does, in fact, wound in the same kind of way when it goes through stuff as an expanding projectile. It is crushing and damaging tissue en route to what it is. It has enough mass to get where it's going and do the damage to it once it gets there. But it is also shedding enough of its energy and velocity en route through the target so that it doesn't leave our intended target and hit little Susie in the background, thus decreasing our liability. In case you're wondering why we use expanding projectiles for handguns, it is because they limit our liability. Now, I know somebody's already yelling, I don't care about it. Yes, you do. You do. You may not realize you do. But I promise you right now, if you messing around and you get up into your thing at Golden Corral tomorrow with somebody and you go out there and you shoot and that damn thing leaves Cletus and hits Miss Betty over there and her family sues the crap out of you because of the liability and you have left your ass flapping in the breeze, you will care that it scrubbed enough velocity and energy that it didn't exit Cletus and hit Betty, okay? I'm just telling you, it is reality. So, in closing, I get mad about that, man. I hate that freaking super fancy bougie ass ammo that doesn't do anything, and they're basically cash cowing people that want to be better. They're cash cowing you because you don't know any better. And then you have people like me that are desperately trying to teach you better. And then there's some idiot on the internet that's like, oh no, it goes through a 3A vest. Right, with like 5 grains of freaking weight left to it, and it had enough velocity exiting the vest to barely make it past the guy's chest hair. Knowing where we want to hit in a defensive encounter, but more importantly, why we want to hit that thing, and then why we have chosen the ammo we did, is an essential knowledge point for anybody that is defensively minded. It is what it is. Our goal every day that we carry a firearm is to never get into a fight to begin with. But if your number gets picked and you were smart and you were carrying your gun, and it is time for you to now make a vote, and you are not going to be a victim today, it is imperative that we're aiming for the stuff that matters. We understand what impacting that stuff is going to do. We know why we are shooting at things that we are shooting at, and we have selected an ammunition that out of our firearm is a proven, reliable, accurate thing with good terminals on the end, which means it penetrates deep enough with enough mass to do the damage we want while destroying extra stuff and starting tiny timers on the way, and it doesn't slip out the backside of our intended target and hit little Miss Peggy, okay? That is our goal when we talk about tactical anatomy in the defensive mindset for concealed carriers. Welcome. God, you thought this one, you think I'm animated here? Dude, I am way more animated in the upcoming ballistics video. Yeah, it's there's a handgun version, and then there is a rifle version, and we talk about all the different bullets that you could possibly get in a handgun, why some of them are absolute dog shit, dog water terrible, and why some of them are freaking amazing. Things like that Lehigh Extreme Defender. I know some people don't like it. Dude, I have never witnessed it fail. I have seen that thing shot into ordnance gel, clear ballistics gel, and sim test 180 times or so right now. It's never failed, ever, through any barrier. It has done exactly its job every single. That stuff is awesome. But that video is gonna, the guys that are super mad about me calling out Liberty Defense, that are already angrily typing in the comments, like, you just don't understand, bro. My feet per second, right? I'm gonna make you really super mad in that video. So stay tuned, class. Because this is what I do. After all, I don't care if you take my opinion. I have a very highly informed, highly educated, well-tested opinion. I have shot probably more gel than the vast majority of people. I have probably put more rounds into more gel than some ammo companies, very few, but maybe some. And I eat this stuff up. I love terminal and external ballistics for ammunition. It's just cool stuff. It is the science that is violent algebra. It is fan-freaking-tastic, and it is one of the reasons I get so passionate about this stuff. And one of the coolest things for me is seeing you guys comment, hey man, I love your ballistics videos. Don't worry guys, I have been writing the new cartridge videos, terminal effect. We're gonna do 5.56, we're gonna do 300 blackout, we're gonna be doing 6.5 Creedmoor, we're gonna do 22 arc, 6 arc. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have fun, but I want to do that discussion on the actual bullets themselves for handgun and for rifles, so you guys have a little bit better understanding. For those that don't know, you're going to be like, holy crap, that's a lot of information. And for you ballistic nerds out there, rejoice, man. Y'all are going to be happy as hell. So guys, I am Uncle Freedom. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to get in touch with me, or you want more information about the people I like that I partner with, you guys know where to look. Go check my friends out over at outlastsupply.com. Like I said, a lot of what I do is just not possible without them. They're freaking amazing people. I truly appreciate them working with me to do what I do. Some of the new stuff coming up is going to be brain warping. It's so cool. So guys, I am Uncle Freedom. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And until next time, I'll see you later.